beneficiary of a family trust that owned at least 15% of Osborne and Little.
So has the Chancellor ever profited from offshore business dealings?
This evening, a spokesman for the Chancellor said, "As we said the last time Channel 4 News ran this story, it's bogus and desperate. The Chancellor has no offshore shareholdings or interest, as we have repeatedly made clear."
Now, to discuss this further, we're joined from the Commons by Labour MP Meg Hillier, who is also chair of the Public Accounts Committee, and from Westminster, the studio there, we're joined by Conservative MP Charles Walker. And Meg Hillier, do you now sense that the question of the individual issues surrounding David Cameron, and indeed George Osborne for that matter, that's it, they haven't broken the law, have they?
I think that seems apparent. I think one of the problems with anyone in public life is that it's the smell of any issue that causes consternation with the public. But we really mustn't lose sight here of the bigger prize, which is to get much more transparency on corporate tax deals. And one of the issues around the Panama Papers is, of course, it's really shone sunlight in an area where it wasn't shone before. And we really, as a committee, on the Public Accounts Committee, we're really clear that we want much more transparency. And my colleague Caroline Flint has put forward a 10-minute rule bill asking, with the full backing, I have to say, of the cross-party committee, for much more transparent reporting of corporate tax, because that's really where the big bucks are that are not going to the Exchequer, and that's one of the things we're very keen to see.
You say that, but Jeremy Corbyn spent his entire speech really attacking the Prime Minister. And he in turn, of course, came back at you and said, look, come on, trade unions, probably even the Labour Party itself, has money invested offshore. That's true.
Look, and I think if you take a typical pension fund, there's probably issues there. What we've really got to see is a complete change of culture. It is no longer acceptable, if it ever was.
But before you go further, I mean, complete change of culture. It's all very well you're attacking each other for doing the same thing.
But if you let me finish, a complete change of culture so that it is no longer seen as acceptable to hide away where people are making investments and what tax they're paying. And that's something that we should have, hopefully, and we have on my committee some quite strong cross-party agreement on. But it is, remember, those corporate taxpayers who are playing multinational tax games, if you like, to make sure that they're avoiding tax where they can, need to be tackled too. And we just mustn't in all of this lose sight of that, where there's really billions of pounds worth of money potentially available to tax regimes around the world.
Charles Walker, we get this announcement, second time round, we had it in December, now we've had it again, that there's going to be this opening of the books by the people who run these tax havens in these offshore islands and the rest of it that the British government still has some degree of tutelage over. Now, the question is, how transparent is this actually going to be?
Well, I think the Prime Minister set out a series of plans and proposals and policies today that he will be judged on. But I think actually the Prime Minister's statement got to the heart of the issue. Is what is acceptable, what is tax avoidance, for example, investing in pensions, ISAs, and what is aggressive tax avoidance. And I think that is where we need to focus the political debate. We know tax evasion is illegal, but what is aggressive tax avoidance and how tolerant of that should we be, and do we need to change the law around it? And that is for Parliament to do.
The issue, though, too, which is in this big announcement about transparency and these tax havens, is, are we really ever getting to the bottom? Because we don't believe it. There is no evidence whatever, that anybody is going to be allowed access to this stuff. I mean, no private investigator will ever be able to look at these books. This is some very shallow opportunity to look at a bit of what's going on in these tax havens over which we have sovereign control.
Well, I think, all governments are judged on their record. This issue is now front and centre, and I don't imagine Channel 4 News or any other members of the media, the lobby media, are going to let it rest. They are going to come back to this over the next months and years to ask, right, what progress is being made? And I hope that progress is made, and I believe progress will be made. But of course, it's too early to judge on that, given that the Prime Minister only made his statement a few hours ago.
Okay, well, let's Meg Hillier, let's just try and get some quick answers. I mean, is offshore activity by British taxpayers allowable?
Well, it is allowable in law.
No, but do you want it to be allowable?
No, I think what we need is absolute transparency. What we have found, as the record of the Public Accounts Committee shows that when light is shone on something, people care about their reputations, and a lot of activity changes. But really, anyone trying to aggressively avoid tax out with the spirit of what the Parliament wanted within law. That is not right. And
could you just tell us what aggressive avoidance is?
Well,
because we seem to have avoidance, aggressive avoidance, and evasion.
Well, most of us just pay the tax that we're due. The aggressive tax avoidance is going to great lengths to find vehicles that minimise your tax. And we see this with the corporate multinationals that have appeared before the Public Accounts Committee, things that were absolutely amazing to us as members of the committee and to members of the public. And we get more letters about this as a committee than anything else. It really worries the public.
Let me put that point then to Charles Walker, because there's an entire industry in the City of London that is about nothing else but aggressive tax avoidance, and you know that much better than I do.
You do make a good point. When you have a tax code, Tolley's tax guide, that is 10,000 pages long, you create all sorts of opportunities for avoidance. What we need is a much simpler tax system, and I think that is where some political focus needs to be. 10,000 pages of tax guidance creates a lot of opportunity for avoidance, and as politicians we need to take responsibility for that.
Absolutely.
Charles Walker, Meg Hillier, sorry we're out of time, but thank you very much indeed for joining us.